Okay, guys, now we move on to the upper chassis. And this is the thinner piece of plastic. And make sure to peel off the protective paper. I think I noticed one of you did the lower chassis without taking the paper off. And of course, don't just throw it on the floor like I just did. Somebody in your house, like my wife, is going to get mad, but I'm going to pick it up and put it in the garbage can before she has a chance to see it. So as long as nobody snitches on me, I should be fine. Let's see, it's always kind of a game to see if one could get it off all in one piece. I haven't been able to yet. And this is my last chance. Let's see what happens. Oops. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to do it. Ooh. Aren't I something, huh? Okay. So we look at our diagram there. Okay, we have this in the right orientation. Aha. Now, let's be certain. This thing is not symmetric when I flip it over, so you got to be careful. So I look at that picture, and I see the thing I'm looking at are these three holes right there. So that has to be over here. This is the top. And the battery box is going to be here. And I see that they want the orientation like that. Okay. So let's get the batteries out of the way. I mean, it looks like there's no way we can do this without taking out the batteries. And we need there was that bag of hardware, remember, and I still have it in this cup. And there's various things in there, and one of them is M3 8mm, right? Those are those medium-sized ones in here. Right, they're the only ones left. Now don't forget, there's these smaller screws and these ridiculously tiny nuts in there, so we gotta be careful about them. And I see, oh, there it is. I thought I lost one of these. There's still more of these spacers in here. I'm not sure what those are for. Maybe we were supposed to use them with the line tracker, but I'm gonna pull out the last four 3mm nuts that are in here. And I got one of the little screws at the same time, so that's what I mean. Like, the nuts themselves are so tiny, we don't want to lose track of those. Nowadays, it's hard to get these things. When I was your age, oh, there's one of the little nuts. Okay, so I got the 4 screws, 4 nuts, and I don't see any spacers. If you look carefully at the picture, you'll see the switch has got to go on this side. So this looks fairly straightforward. I hope that the screw heads, oops, don't just pass right through these holes. No, doesn't look like it. So they're set up because since the screws are in the very middle, they are very likely to hit the batteries. So the holes are big and so the screw head sits in there recessed a little bit so that the batteries can go in all the way. And now I just push that one out. This is probably going to drive you nuts. Let's see. Wow, it's hard to get 2 fingers in there at the same time. So I'm thinking if we try to do 4 of them at once, it may drive us crazy. So I'm going to do 2. And it says, no spacers. These screws seem kind of long. They pass right through. All right, well, we'll see what happens. And we'll throw on 2 nuts. We won't tighten them yet because we got to get 2 more screws in. If you tighten it up, you might not be able to move the battery box enough to get them on. There we go. So you'll see you can wiggle it still, so we can line up to get the other 2 screws dropped in. And boy, that's going to be tough. Let's see. I'm constantly losing. Oh, there, it's right there. I'm going to see if I can manipulate this with the... Oh, it's magnetic. I forgot. So there we go. That dropped in. I don't know how much you saw, but that's sweet. It's always nice to have a magnetic screwdriver. Now, I don't know if yours is magnetic. Sometimes they purposely build magnets into them to make them more strong for that purpose. I don't know if the little guy, no, but the ones that I put in, the slotted screwdrivers, they might be magnetic. And now, make sure you're constantly paying attention, because if I were to lose one of these nuts, if I came out of my fingers, it would go sliding down this chassis, and it might very well end up scattering across the floor. Okay, so I got those on loosely. I guess I'm going to push it back to open. See this hole? The square hole gets bigger and smaller. I'm going to try keeping that hole as big as I can. And I'm going to hold my finger against the nut down below. Well, it's going to fight against me, so I'll use thumb and finger. And I'll go ahead and tighten all 4 of these. Yeah, so, right, I can't really open up that hole too much. Alright. So, get that good and tight. Remember, don't go ahead and use a bigger screwdriver because you might end up cracking the plastic. And let's go see what's next. Aha. So what is this? The ultrasonic holder. Alright, so we're going to hold off on these steps. I see. And we're going to go after mounting the Uno. So I see there's a very good reason for us not to have put this shield on it like we did in the last video. So I'm going to carefully, because you don't want to bend the pins, carefully pry it apart. And I have the one from the robot connected to the Raspberry Pi over there. It doesn't really matter. And notice in the picture they've got it turned around like this, and they have the ports of the Uno pointed that way. Okay, now gosh, oh, that was these leftovers right here from the other pack. So I've got 8 screws in there and 4 brass standoffs. Let me see, how many? 1, 2, It's only 3 of them, not 4. Yeah, there's only 3 left. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to double check which holes I'm supposed to use. There they are. And just for the fun of it, I'm going to mark them. So I make sure I see 3 holes line up. If you pick the wrong holes, you won't see all 3 of them at once. So that's this one, and that one, and this one. Okay. Because I'm going to set that aside for a minute, because I'm going to install the 4 brass posts first. So I take my M3 screw, and I hold it in there with my finger. And I grab a brass post, a standoff, and I think it's okay to tighten it up. The holes are pretty tight, and the holes in Arduino look a little bigger. So we should be able to maneuver the Arduino on here. So I normally say don't tighten them, but I'm a little worried if we don't tighten them down, they might start falling off. Yeah, that hole's pretty tight. There isn't much wiggle room for these brass standoffs once they're on. 2. Now the third one. So drop the screw into place. And they'll get the next standoff. And you can always go back now and grab your screwdriver. Constantly losing the darn thing. Hold the post. Yep, it turned a little bit. Snug those down. So this is going to be similar to before, and with the motor controller, I'm going to put the screws in place first. Up here, 1, 2, and actually I would advise doing this one here first because it's difficult. If you have to, oh, that went in pretty easily. Because then once that's in, if I'd had trouble with that one, I might have knocked this one out. These two are pretty easy. So once again, I just bring it down one at a time, and I land that. I can see the screw go into the brass. You probably can't see it on the camera. And then don't drop it all the way down. The screws may pop out. Next, I'll get this one, a little maneuvering, get that one started. And lastly, there's this one. And it's a little tricky. It's maybe I'm going to have to loosen. Yeah, I guess that's too bad. I may have to loosen the posts. Although there doesn't seem to be enough room. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to remove that screw because I don't want to lose it. And this may prove to be a little tricky. Let's see. Yeah. Because I may not be able to tighten these on. We'll see. They don't give us a wrench. So loosen that one a little bit. And oh wow, I still can't get that to line up. So I'll have to loosen the third one. Generally speaking, when you put things together like this, you don't tighten the screws until the end. I'm just a little worried that I won't be able to tighten these. Well, I have tools. I mean, I can go get a wrench. But then I don't know if you guys have access to a wrench. So now you see it's pretty sloppy. And I'm going to put this one back in. And then I'm going to tighten it up. Get it started at least, right? Oh, it got in. That took a little doing. Now careful, the brass might spin under it, so just push down a little bit on the Arduino board. Yeah, I see the brass spinning when I get it down all the way. So then I'm going to put my finger against the brass here, and I'm going to try tightening the the bottom. It worked. Here, yeah, now I got my thumb on the other one. That worked. And then I'll double check how tight these are. Yeah, those are nice and snug. Nice. Okay. So, let's do a little planning here. First of all, take a look at the next page. Right, so it wants the shield on there. We can go ahead and do that, and it's once again line up the holes on here. You can see the screws through them. And then also the very first pin here lines up with the very first hole. And lay that in there and double check on the other side. There's a possibility, not too much, that you could misalign them. Double check, and when you're happy you've got them all in, you can set this down, and now you can press a little bit at a time. And look, it shouldn't have to be forced. If it's not sliding in, double check and make sure you haven't bent a pin. And there it is. So now we can plug this in, and we're almost ready now to be able to do the pulse width modulation.